Hey everybody, in this video we're going to take a look at reaming and facing a head tube. In my situation, the bottom bearing always gets stuck, and when I try to remove it, it basically explodes into pieces. So every time I want to service my headset bearings, I need a new bottom bearing. I have a whole video on how I remove it. Please take a look if you have a similar scenario. But to solve the problem, I'm essentially going to ream and surface the head tube. I'm using the part tool system. It basically uses a reamer and a facer, and on the other end is a centering cone. Now this centering cone will ensure that the cutters are moving in a proper plane and not at a weird angle. So for my bottom bearing, which is a 52 mm bottom bearing, I'm using a 738 reamer and a 690 XL facer. To install things, install the facer first, and then the reamer, and then both of those are held in place with a nut. Now whichever surface you're cleaning, essentially you're cutting, is where these reamer and the facer go in, and on the other end is where the centering cone stays. Here is my bottom part of the head tube, and this is what I'm going to ream and surface. I'm applying a little bit of grease. I don't have cutting oil. And so the reamer and the facer go in, and on top goes the centering cone. Just push it up until the point wherein your reamer is making contact with the head tube. You don't need to push it too hard. You don't need to add any more tension at this point, and I'll let you know why it's a bad idea to add more tension. So once your reamer starts to make contact with the head tube, you can start cutting and slowly turn, and you should see filings come out. Everything was going great, but then I made a mistake of adding too much tension to the centering cone, and what happens then is your cutters try to take more material and they can get jammed, as is what happened in my scenario. So I did undo the cone, released all the tension, and then I had to really turn the cutters counterclockwise while pulling down, and then the whole system came out. After this initial fiasco, I learned my mistake, and I started just adding a little bit of tension as I cut. That way, the cutters don't get jammed. In my experience, it's a good idea to turn the cutters as much as needed using the handle, and then add a little bit of tension by turning the centering cone just a quarter of a turn, and then repeat the whole process. So a couple of turns on the handle, and then add a little bit of tension using maybe a quarter of a turn. Definitely keep an eye out. You don't want to cut too much. You'll either need new cups or probably a whole new bike. So as the facer makes contact with the head tube, that's when we need to stop. So here you can see the facer is almost making contact with the head tube. So a couple of turns and we should be good. So here's the inside right now, and you can see that black line is where the cutting hasn't happened yet. So a few more turns, and you'll notice that the facer is now making contact with the head tube, and it's cleaning that up as well. So this is a good point to stop. You just undo the tension up top, and it should slide down. Now is a good time to clean everything. There will be quite a bit of filings on the inside as well as your cutters too. So clean them both up. And you can see it's all nice and shiny, and it's ready to accept the bearing. So I did use a scour pad just to remove any burrs, although I didn't notice any, but I thought it might remove any metal dust that might get stuck in there after the cutting. So I did use a scour pad all around on the inside as well as the outside surface of the head tube. And at this point, you're just going to put everything back in place. I put some grease, and you can see the bearing sliding in and out smoothly now. So problem solved, I guess. A few tips to remember: do not over tighten the centering cone. Let the cutters do their job, and definitely keep an eye out during the cutting process that you're not taking too much material. As always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.